Hey, everybody. So, welcome to another episode of the Strategy Game podcast. We are super excited because today we have Jenna Ahern with us from Guardian Owl Digital, and she's just going to tell us a little bit about herself. We're going to get into SEO, what works, what doesn't work. And all of the nitty gritty that you need to know to be able to grow your audience. And now more than ever, Jenna, I would say that this is a really important topic because our landscape is shifting so much. I mean, even recently, like, have you just been seeing things shift in terms of what works and what hasn't worked?
Absolutely. In online and offline, right?
Right. I mean, I just got your weekly email, which was great, by the way. And it has all of the updates in terms of, the privacy policies, things that are shifting. Have you guys had to make changes? Like, I'm just out of curiosity in
Yes.
terms of what works.
Yeah. So I mean, SEO is always it's a moving target. It's almost like a marathon. And I always look at it as such. And you're always just trying to be better than your last game. And so I send out those weekly emails for free because I know there's a lot of people in my shoes or CMOs or entrepreneurs that, some of those updates and changes could affect the way they operate their business. So I recommend we do it ourselves internally every 90 days, kind of doing a checkpoint and saying, okay, how am I doing? Do we need to add on to our SEO strategy or just online business strategy? Or, is something working that we can reallocate resources to? So I appreciate you saying that. And I'm so excited to be here on the podcast. I love your podcast. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to have you. We're teaming up on some exciting stuff, and we'll talk about that at the end. But it's just been so great to get to know you and hear your story. And because we talk a lot about identity-based strategy on two levels, I wanted to start by sharing your story. There's really two levels of this that we touch on. The first is really your personal story as a founder, right? And how that shaped where you are today and what you do today for people, and some of your strengths and what you've been through. Like, that typically tends to shape what you end up doing or how you end up using, right? Those gifts and the talents that you have. And then the second part of it is just your identity as a brand. So even as I'm looking at your logo, it's almost this like protector. It's a wise owl, right? And so I'd love to have you speak to both of those things. But let's start out with just your story. How did you get here doing this?
I love that you said that because I really do feel like the guardian, and it really does speak to my story. I was raised in Lancaster County, so just a small farm town in Pennsylvania. And I was raised by a single mom, and I had a brother and sister, and just come from a broken family. And that really, I credit that to where I am today, because I certainly wouldn't be the person. And my dad was an athlete, a Division I wrestler. And that was our love language, athletics. And so when he left our household, I continued to try and, prove kind of my worth in athletics. And believe it or not, I somehow did. I got opportunities from, several Division I colleges, and the Louisville Cardinals, they swept in, and I decided to become a Cardinal in 2006. And I got a scholarship to play at the University of Louisville field hockey. And I really, that was a big leap for me. I was on my own at 18, coming from a single mom household. I had a job while I played field hockey at the University of Louisville. And that job actually then transformed into a stepping stone where I got an internship at a marketing company in Louisville my junior year of college. And so again, I was a server, waitress. I worked, a million odd end jobs. And when I got the opportunity for this marketing company, I was flying all over the country, facilitating service and sales promotion events for car dealerships. And so here I was, this 21-year-old, 20-year-old, telling these dealers how to run their business on a Saturday. And so it helped me, not just being a Division I athlete, but really then getting my foothold in the business world and working in automotive. And so I then was recruited right out of college for marketing firms within the automotive industry. I spent 10 years working my way up the automotive ranks, and I realized in the marketing end there was of these dealerships, there was such a lack of transparency. And when Google ads and digital advertisements came into their marketing engine and marketing strategy, they didn't know what they were spending money on. They barely knew what Google was, and the ones that did were so far advanced. And so coming from a small town, and to me, the automotive dealerships, they represented a huge foothold in the community. That's where, you would have, say, hot dog stands and free popcorn, and they would give back to the little league teams, and certainly supported my community. And so I really wanted to help these dealerships find a balance in what this whole digital world meant to their business. And so at the time, I was actually working for Cox Automotive, certainly kind of like a broker for dealerships. I helped them with Auto Trader and Kelley Blue Book, to name two companies that you may be familiar with. And so Cox Automotive said, hey, we don't care if you want to help other businesses, with their digital marketing, just not automotive. So I said, hey, sure, why not? And so in the mornings before work and late at night, I would help, roofing companies and plumbing companies and, small to medium-sized businesses understand what their $100, $500 investments in Facebook and Google meant to their business. And I helped educate them. And eventually, that small consulting, those clients grew, and it became not just a side hustle, but a real business entity. And in 2013 was when we started. 2016, I went full time into the business, and it just kind of snowballed ever since. So that's the story.
I love your whole story. I love that, because each part of it is really important. And when you think about your story of growing up, right, and always trying to prove, right, yourself, right, overachiever, right, high performer, I can relate to that. And I think some of it can be a holdback, right, because you don't know how to rest, right? Like, I'm speaking from experience. And
you nailed it.
Yep. Sometimes you're on the hamster wheel and you can't get off, which I've really learned to do more recently in the last 5 years. And then when you begin to move forward in a different way, it's really amazing. And you're using the gifts that came out of how you grew up in your family. So it's pretty awesome to think about that, and make.
And Lauren, I've had to do a lot of work on that, because I think, just in my experience, I'll speak for myself, I really have to fight that demon of, am I enough? I achieve something, and it's like, oh, I don't feel anything, like I'm just on to the next. And I really look at it as like building sandcastles. I love creating things. And so a lot of people, they see it as, oh, you're going to work. And I see it as, this is my space to create. And I kind of try and reframe it, but you're so right. Like, for whatever reason, there's just not, some days it feels like there's not an off switch. I wish there was.
Yes. Oh, I can relate to that so much. Harold and the Purple Crayon. Have you ever read the book? It's a kid's book. It's like famous, right? It's where he.
I've heard of the Purple Cow. I've read the Purple Cow.
Oh, well, that's good. Seth Godin. It's a kid's book. And I have read it with my kids. And every time I think about me coming to do the work at Storywork, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm Harold with the purple crayon, like drawing the landscape. Like, it's your place.
Oh, that's so awesome. I wrote it down.
It's so cool. I'm totally going to send you a link to it, like the read aloud. It's so great because he draws his own life, like throughout, and then walks through it. And that's what I feel like as an entrepreneur, it feels like that's why it makes you come alive, because you are just drawing your way through. Like you're creating, you get to keep creating new things and solve problems. And so that's so awesome. So talk to me a little bit about what the name and the logo, like the brand that you've built means, because it sounds like you really found a hole, right, in the industry. And that's, we'll have to talk offline more, but I actually have a background in the automotive industry with my family. So we used to own
Stop it. That's why we connect, Lauren.
we own dealerships. So I'm familiar with all of the companies that you're referencing. I've been to quite a few of the, you know, when we were traveling, all the conventions and events
Oh
associated
yeah.
with NADA and all that stuff. So, but tell me a little bit about what Guardian Owl really means and what it represents because of what you saw or discovered, right, when you were first starting.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, I mean, I grew up in a small farm town, and to me, you know, and again, there's a lot, just like in any industry, there's a lot of darkness out there. But to me, I always felt like, again, dealerships that I grew up in guarded over the community. And when I would see in analytics or see, you know, a $10,000 investment where the company really took 5 of it and only spent 5 online, it like it fueled this fire inside of me that I'm like, that's wrong. And like, just because these dealers are old school and don't understand this doesn't mean that you don't have the responsibility to educate them and truly make an impact on in their marketing. And so I wanted the business to represent a guardian. I wanted it to represent being able to see through the darkness, have, you know, excellent vision, and be able to be this beacon of trust. And I thought the owl was perfect in kind of encompassing all of that, you know, the 270-degree vision, being able to see through the dark, kind of, again, be able to fly over and see everything on a wider basis. And, you know, if you ever look at or read The Hero's Journey, or I forget, what is it? The Thousand Faces of the Hero's Journey.
Oh, I've never read that. Okay.
Okay, I'll send it to you. It's a great book. You can put it in the notes, but I love mythology, and I always thought Athena with the owl was just, you know, this woman of wisdom, and I always leaned into her with sports. And so again, you can see, right? I have, you know, the Louisville Cardinals and now the Guardian Owl. I love birds and owls, and it just, to me, was a perfect symbolism for what I wanted people to see in the business. And I'm really, you know, from our core values, we begin a lot of our meetings talking about, all right, we have an honest approach. You know, how are we being honest and transparent? You know, we're not perfect. We make errors. So, you know, how are we communicating those errors effectively to our clients? And that builds trust and respect, because, you know, just like with any partner, we're all humans. And I think in digital, when you're doing a lot of experimenting, when this is kind of a brand new playing field, you have to be able to have that kind of open dialogue and communication. And so trust and honesty are huge when it comes to what we try and do and represent every day.
That's so good. And I love that there's so much meaning behind, you know, even the logo and the name and what it represents. And you can see how that translates to how you operate and then how you cast vision for your team. And I think this is something that we always really encourage with the brands that I work with. Is having that connection with that identity-based strategy. Like that's a perfect example of what it means. And it translates, right? It is important because it translates all the way through your offerings to clients and how you are transparent, number one. And number two, take ownership if there are errors, right? We all make errors, right? So it's just all about how you communicate them with transparency. And I don't know who wouldn't want that. So it's just so honorable to watch from the outside too. And that's why we're so excited to be really working with you this year. So tell me about why you think it is that people hesitate. So you've worked with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, right? And I can relate to this, hesitating on pulling the trigger on SEO, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm not quite ready yet, right? Like all of my all of my funnels aren't ready yet. All of all of my ducks are not completely in a row. Tell me what you see in terms of those clients. Like, why do you think it is that they hesitate, and why should
Well,
they?
I do think that there's some churn and burn when it comes to. Okay, I think that there's a ton of churn and burn with marketing agencies, right? So I was in the position where I even saw all that. And can you hear me, Lauren?
Yes, yes, I can. It was breaking up like a little bit there for a second. Hold on, let me close the window. Well, sometimes that happens. Okay, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. There was a lot of churn and burn when it comes to marketing agencies and what they were selling. And so I think first and foremost, just being on the other side, I think there's a lot of sleazy marketing companies out there. And I think that we as an industry need to do a better job of educating clients up front on what they need and not just what we want to sell. So I think that just the industry, we need to, especially in this digital age, we need to be better communicators and not sellers, better story sharers and not story sellers. And so I think that is one just piece of ownership I want to take, just because some companies need to lead the way. And I know there are companies doing that. So I think there's a hesitation because businesses have been burned before with paid ads and SEO. The second hesitation, I think, is, SEO isn't an immediate return. It isn't this instant gratification like ads. You turn on Google ads or Facebook ads, you're going to hopefully see leads and activity right away. SEO is like a marathon, right? So if you're training for a 26-mile race, you're not going to run those full 26 in week one. It takes several months of training for you to be able to make that run. And quite frankly, a lot of business owners don't want to make that sacrifice. And whether that be because of budget, whether that be because they don't understand it, there's, a variable reasons why they don't want to make that leap. And I always say, then that's just not really our ideal client yet, because I believe firmly SEO is going to be like your internet bill. It is going to be a fixed cost in doing business. You can either rent or you can own your online space. And if you're renting, you're probably not investing a lot in SEO. Maybe you're on a Wix platform, or you don't really have a real website and domain authority yet. If you're ready and you have those funds to now own your domain or your house on the internet, then you're going to want to invest in SEO, because that's really the only way and ads that you grow your authority on the internet. So I just kind of think it's a matter of time, not, will they or won't they? And it just depends on where they are in running their marathon, running their race, on whether or not they're ready to flock to the nest. And so, but those are really the main, I guess, variables we see and objections we see in whether or not a client's ready to make the leap.
That's so good. I love that line about that you need to be story sharers and not story sellers. That was really, really good. I haven't heard that phrase before, and I think that really stuck with me. And the first is really just genuine, and I think it's watching the journey over time, and not guaranteeing, certain results and then them not happening, which I think is what, some people in the industry have experienced. So I think that your brand really represents the opposite of that. And, just thinking through your clients and, how this works, how do you figure out what works for clients? Like, what does good SEO look like? We know it takes time. But what are some of the things that you've seen that have really worked for your clients in terms of SEO?
Well, one tool that I want to make sure all your listeners and audience understands is Google Search Console. A lot of companies talk about Google Analytics, which is great because you can utilize analytics to measure what traffic and visitors are doing once they get to your site.
Yeah.
But where SEO and the success in SEO really lies is being able to understand why aren't more people clicking through to my site. So Google Search Console is a free tool that Google gives you that allows you to see how often and where you're appearing, your pages on your website are appearing in search results. And then if someone's not clicking through, and you can even see what search queries you're appearing for. So a lot of times just by us looking at Google Search Console, and again, it's a free tool. This is not something that we're selling you. It's something that everyone should have if they're operating a business online. Yeah. You then can determine, Lauren, okay, here are my top 3 pages that are appearing in search results. Why am I not getting clicks? Right. And that can be a good place to start, because if you don't even know that yet, then, we're going to give you some tools and allow you, going back to that marathon, we're going to give you some shoes to put on so that now, okay, get used to your shoes and then come back when you get to mile 1, because then we can help you get to mile 5. Yeah. So that's, I think, a great place to start. And another great place to start is Answer the Public. It's a free tool. You can get up to 5 searches a day. And what it allows you to see is what are the frequently asked questions around your business, product, or service right now online. And so you'll probably notice if you do a search, there's these little like gray boxes that are appearing on Google, and you can click through them and get answers to your questions. A lot of people that are evaluating in that research phase, they ask a lot of questions. So you can determine, okay, what are they asking? Again, another free tool, and then be able to develop content around that to then feature on your site. And that's an easy way to start getting ranked, just through answering questions Google wants answers to.
Nice. That's so great. Actually, I did not know about that tool. So I have some homework to do after we get off of this recording.
That's a great place to start. And you ask, like, what are we seeing? I mean, we're looking at voice search, video. So being able to answer those frequently asked questions around video or even audio, what you're doing right now, Lauren, with the podcast, being able to put this onto the site. And, if you can think about Google and search engines like libraries, they're just trying to catalog information all day long. And so if consumers are asking for new information that hasn't been cataloged, whether it's, HTML, so written content, audio, video, then here's your opportunity as a business owner to give Google that content for it to catalog. And that is the process of SEO, matching what content is going to get you ranked right now for your product or service and what's currently lacking on your site.
That's a great analogy. That was really helpful. If you think about it, like from the library, the Dewey Decimal System. Do you remember that? Learning about in the cards growing up.
Wow.
This is essentially, right? It just took you back there.
Flashback. Yes, I remember that.
I don't know if all of our listeners will know what that is, but just that up there. Yes. So that's essentially, this is the modern day Dewey Decimal System at the library.
Stealing that is so great. Yes.
Cataloging. Oh, that's amazing. Okay. So what I love about this process is that it's really getting businesses the representation that they need intentionally and over time. So it is the marathon. They have to be ready to contribute this as, essentially a fixed cost in their business, right? So they should be ready to commit to this for the long haul, but then knowing that there are going to be tweaks. Like, let's talk a little bit about the marketing engine process that we referenced in the beginning, and talk about what we're doing and how we're working together. So we're so excited about this because this is an opportunity to not just set it and forget it, but to lead businesses and nonprofits through a very intentional process that takes the whole digital marketing burden off of their shoulders. So if you're listening to this and you're starting to feel overwhelmed, like, I don't have any of those things. I know I need to be doing this, but I don't even know where to start or what to do. This is the solution that we've come up with together. So we've partnered together, Jenna and myself and Jean, who is not on this call, but she'll be on the podcast shortly here. And we've designed the marketing engine, and it's really a three-layered process. So first, I typically start out with walking the clients through their user personas and their journey maps. And what this really means is we get real clear on who your customers are and what the different segments are. So we segment your audiences according to really their core desires and their needs. And they might have some overlap there, but their priorities will be different. And therefore, that's going to shape different language. That's going to shape different campaign themes, channels, how they consume information. And so, what we're really looking at as we start with really the identity based strategy is breaking down who your customers really are, what their core needs and differences are, and then we lay out the journey map, which is their whole journey from the first time that they may see an ad, right, or do a Google search, to the time that they then experience your process and become an advocate and share that story with others, activating your word of mouth strategy, right, which is always our ultimate goal. And so we equip them to become advocates. So we lay out those things for you. And then what we're able to do is bring Jean in, and she really translates that into the messaging component of, okay, what do the campaigns need to say? What channels? Where does it need to live? What's the format? All the nitty gritty. What visuals do we need? All the things. And then Jenna is able to run the SEO, making sure that your business and these campaigns are showing up for people so that you can get the traffic that you need to be able to drive results. So what's great about this is that we don't just set it and forget it. We have a monthly audit process that we're checking in with the analytics, and we're saying, does this match up to the personas? And if it doesn't, what tweaks do we need to make? What's working, what's not working? So Jenna, talk to me a little bit about how this process is different, having these other layers on it. Like, what has that done so far, as you've seen with the campaign strategies?
Well, and first of all, I'm so excited because, a lot of times, like I just told you about Search Console and, these tools, we're kind of the executors, guardian out. We're here to guard over the investments and make sure it's executing well. And that's like the arena we play in. And the challenge for us has always been when clients say, well, geez, I don't really know my why, or, okay, well, my branding, like this isn't really resonating with who actually is coming to our site, but maybe we do need to target them. And so we were never, Guardian Out was never designed as a branding agency and an agency to, create the messaging. We were designed to make sure, that things are executing well, and we know how to do that and implement, and then be able to serve our clients in communicating back to them how it's working. And so I think that you mentioned the 3 layers. I think that this has been super helpful for not just our team to be able to give our clients, the service they need in other capacities that are super important for us to be able to execute, but then also just in working with you all, being able to understand and lean into the different layers of marketing and how those are going to dramatically affect the SEO and the paid ads. And so if you don't have your creative and messaging right, we can spend all day long getting people to your site or getting them to, the ad, but it's not going to convert. So it truly is, I think, a lean and mean machine that is, and we call the marketing engine, literally it's an engine, but it really has enabled us to come full circle, and being able to rely on experts in those different arenas that we know are certainly very valuable right now in digital transformation for clients that we just don't, that's not our expertise. Yeah. So it's full circle, full service.
Yes. So exciting. And just really that burden, I remember sitting there, I think it was, a year ago, and I was looking at my own business, I was looking at Storywork, and I was thinking, how do we get all of these pieces together and have something that does all of these pieces? Because as you continue to grow and as you continue to learn as, you know, a business owner or an entrepreneur, you keep reaching new heights, right? You keep reaching new levels and you keep acquiring knowledge. But then actually making sure that you execute on all of the knowledge that you've acquired gets to be overwhelming. And so when I was thinking about this whole digital marketing strategy, I was thinking there's all these pieces, right? And so they all have to be working together. And it's just really hard to make that all happen. So that's why I'm so excited about this, because it's really just such a good partnership and it's such a good opportunity to be able to come together and have all of those pieces working. So, of course, we're going to drop the link in the show notes. Jenna, any closing thoughts as we wrap up this conversation? Anything, any kind of first steps or takeaways for our listeners, you know, as they're processing all of this, that you would give to them?
I think, Lauren, what you just said, I mean, there's so many pieces, and I know at every level, there's just, I say at every new level, there's a new devil, but they're truly like, there's always it's just bigger problems and bigger challenges, right? And so I just think no matter what, you know, you're sitting here thinking whether this is overwhelming or, okay, geez, I'm missing that piece. I think either the marketing engine can obviously serve you, but then two, if you're like, okay, well, I'm not ready for this whole team, I think that we're going to be rolling out some masterminds and workshops that may even be, you know, a great one-day learning and education process for you then to go back and say, okay, let me get my ducks in a row. Here's what I learned. So there's going to be, I think, more opportunities for us to serve no matter what stage you're in here in the future. That I'm just keep listening to Lauren's podcast and she'll keep revealing.
Yes, I will. Absolutely. So Jenna, thank you so much for being on and sharing your story. We are so excited to partner with you. Just so honored and love all that you stand for and all that you've built. So just congratulations on what you have built so far. And so we're so excited to just follow you as you continue on the journey.